The freeze response is what we'd almost call like that shock factor. It's where my sympathetic nervous system is so overwhelmed. I don't fight, I simply freeze. I'm just there. Don't even try to fight. You did that and it doesn't work. This is where hopelessness comes in. I think we're all familiar with fight or flight, but there's also the freeze response, and there's even a fawn response that people are even less aware of. But the freeze response is what we'd almost call like that shock factor. It's where my sympathetic nervous system is so overwhelmed by the unsafety of what's happening. I don't fight, I simply freeze. I zone out, I disassociate. I'm no longer present with really what's going on, staring into space, like just people are talking to me, but the comprehension's just not there. And I'm not moving. I'm not trying to actively fight you. I'm not actively trying to run from you. I'm just there. And what we oftentimes see with the freeze response is, if we can go back to the bear analogy, if the bear catches me, so like my immediate thought is I'm going to fight, I'm going to run, but it's too late. I'm cornered. I can't get away from the bear. All right, well, now I'm going to fight the bear, but the bear's already got the upper hand and it's already got me pinned to the ground with both paws on my chest. But it's not killing me. It's just there, roaring on top of me, holding me down. I might try to squirm. I'm going to try to get away, but it just pushes down harder and I can't squirm and I can't get away. Oh, I'm going to try to like get my hand free and hit on the nose, but I try and I hit it and it doesn't even phase it, or I can't even get my hands free. Well, our nervous system gets into this despair of, well, I tried fight or flight. That didn't work. Those failed. And in fact, like, don't even try anymore. This is where hopelessness comes in. Hopelessness comes from, it's usually not the immediate response. It's the response of the bear came, I did everything I knew to do to fight it. I did everything I knew to do to get away from it, but it won. It hasn't killed me. I'm still here, but I am trapped. I don't know when it's going to kill me, but it's still scaring me. But don't try to run away. Don't even try. You did that and it doesn't work. Just sit here in hopelessness. Don't hope. Don't dream. Don't look to the future. None of that matters. This bear's going to kill you any minute now. Yeah, don't have motivation. Motivation means you might try to fight. You tried that. Just stay. Fight or flight, we're past that. We're in freeze, and we don't even have motivation to grab onto the tools that you're telling me to grab onto to even try to do anything different. If I do that, if I go do the thing that you're asking me to do, all it's going to do is bring anxiety back. Because if you're telling me, hey, you can go and do therapy or you can go and do this resource, then you're saying have hope that something might work. And if I have hope again, it means I have to fight again. And if I have to fight again, it means that my sympathetic nervous system is going to go back into that fight mode. And I'm going to feel a bunch of anxiety and fear. So no, it's best to not hope at all. Fighting didn't work. I'm just going to sit hopeless. No, I'm not going to do that thing because I don't want to go through the anxiety and the effort and the exhaustion that comes with having to do that again. And so that's what the freeze response looks like. And that's what's biologically happening in our body as we're experiencing that. And then there's the fawn response. And the fawn response is almost like Stockholm Syndrome, if you've ever heard of Stockholm Syndrome. Like a lot of women who have experienced trafficking, where they have this perpetrator, or even you've seen it in women who have been like victims of consistent like physical abuse or even sexual abuse, where fight, flight didn't work, freeze disassociates them so much, they go into a fawn response because it's a safety mechanism. I will appease you. I will be a willing participant in this. I can even try to go into experiencing like positive emotions towards this because it's coping. Again, trauma response, but coping that's allowing me to be present with the bear with both paws on me, and I can't escape. And so these are the 4 things that our nervous system does. We're not taught how to do these things. Nobody ever taught you how to fight or flight. Nobody ever taught you how to fawn or freeze. We're just biologically wired to do it. And because we're biologically wired to do it, we are literally fighting their biology as we're trying to get them to grab on and do something different. There's multiple types of trauma, and we're not going to go into great detail with these, but again, I just want to make sure that you guys have a decent understanding of what are the things that might come that might lead to a traumatic response in somebody. And they're here. If you print this off, I put all of them on one page for you, but we're just going to go through them very briefly one by one. But bullying is a thing, and no, it's not just something that happens in middle school or high school or elementary school. Bullying happens in workplaces. Bullying happens in homes. And so it's just that, I think every one of us has probably at some point has experienced something that we would consider close to bullying, but it's just that extreme, like unsolicited action where that person's trying to hurt us either socially, emotionally, physically, or psychologically, and just trying to empower themselves through those actions of abusing us. This happens through, I would say that even though any form of physical sexual abuse has its own type of trauma, it's that empowerment of the behavior of the perpetrator that actually could even be classified as the bullying that they're doing. Then there's community violence. I know that a lot of what these women are experiencing is really more like interpersonal, one-on-one, or family of origin that they've experienced that's traumatic, but community violence is big as well. What we would consider like that is anybody who has been an experience of something that is more like, that active shooting, or, I know that there's a lot of people who, if you remember like the Flint, Michigan situation with the lead poisoning in the pipes, like there's a lot of trauma from that affected, like because of the whole community being affected by the negligence of the government there. And so that's what community violence can look like. Complex trauma, this is where it's multiple areas, as I mentioned. So it's not just one of these things that they've experienced, it's multiple. And as we are doing more and more research about complex trauma, what we're recognizing is that not only have most adults at some point in their life experienced trauma, but we're finding even a incredibly high percentage of those adults have experienced complex trauma, because trauma just can come from such different types of experiences. Disasters, we just heard one in the news. I kept up with it a lot, the floods in Texas. Tons of individuals, even those individuals who are fine and are safe, maybe never were even really in significant danger. Like that's the thing, is like just because they never had to float on anything as the floodwaters come or anything, any fact that they would have felt unsafety about that could be traumatic. And certainly the more extreme the case, the more probable the trauma that they experience. But that disaster traumatized that entire community, and certainly individuals, whether they lost somebody or not, whether their safety was ever a factor or not. Early childhood trauma are those that occur between 0 to 6. And I did an entire training not too long ago just about with educators about the trauma that occurs with early childhood, because 95% of brain development happens between the ages of 0 and 5. And so when trauma is experienced at that age and during that critical time of development, there's so many developmental effects on that go far into adulthood. And not that that's necessarily the population, the women or the parents, but certainly the children. Just the fact that they were adopted can be a traumatic experience. I'm currently working with a woman who is having significant PTSD reactions, and the PTSD is from her being given up by her birth mother. She is 30 years old. She has never processed her own adoption. She's Chinese. Her mother gave her up because she believes, and what she's been told is that she would not have been allowed to live had her mom not given her up for adoption. A lot of these things that we're gonna talk about, you're gonna be like, yeah, of course, duh, I know what that looks like. But what I really would ask you to do is have curiosity of what is more discreet, or what symptoms that you would have before today not have identified as a symptom of trauma. When it comes to trauma itself, and what I'm not talking about PTSD right now. When it comes to trauma, and as I share this, you'll see the difference between the two. Trauma is the experience of a life-threatening event, and there are initial effects, and then there are delayed effects. Some people might experience only initial effects with no delayed effects. Some people might experience delayed effects with no initial effects. But regardless, it's one of these or a combination of them. But what you'll see, somebody who've experienced a life-threatening event, or the life-threatening event of another person that they're close to, they have exhaustion, confusion, sorrow, anxiety, feeling on edge, having a numbness to their surrounding or emotions, disassociation, and confusion. When I say disassociation, a lot of people know what that means. Some people don't. And so disassociation, I feel like, can best be described. Have you ever been driving somewhere, operating like a 2-ton, very dangerous vehicle, doing a very dangerous task of driving, but like you are thinking about something, and when you get to your destination, you have like this immediate awareness, like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember driving here. We've all had that experience, right? That's disassociation. You disassociated. You were not present in the here and now of what you were seeing, hearing, feeling, experiencing. Your mind was somewhere else, so focused and so pulled into that other idea that the here and now was handled by your subconscious, and your conscious was isolated to another event, another space, another time. And so it's pretty scary when it happens, honestly. Like, I always have that wake-up call, like, oh my gosh, like, I need pay attention, man. Come on, like, you're driving here. But we disassociate all the time. We disassociate when we daydream. I have attention deficit disorder. It's one of those things that I've had to manage most of my life. And yeah, my daydreams can be significant and oftentimes quite frequent. And so that disassociation is something that does not mean that I've experienced trauma. Just because I disassociate doesn't mean that I've experienced trauma. But if I experience trauma, disassociation is definitely a way to either cope with that, or it's one of the effects, mainly more with PTSD, of re-experiencing that trauma. One of the best ways when I am overwhelmed with grief, pain, fear, whatever's going on in front of me, is to go and avoid what's happening in the here and now in front of me, and mentally check out from it. I do teach avoidance strategies to people who are experiencing a lot of anxiety or a lot of overthinking. We want to not have to sit there and be present with that, because it turns the volume up on what we're experiencing. But disassociation is kind of our subconscious effort to say, well, if you're not going to get away from this, and if you're just going to sit with this thing that's bothering you, then I'm going to take over and we're going to disassociate, because that's going to help us feel better. Now, that's a disassociative as like an avoidance strategy and a calming. Sometimes disassociation is the opposite. It's I'm triggered by that event. Something that I experienced in the here and now reminds me of that life-threatening thing that happened, and that flashback. In that flashback, I go back, and I'm not present in my room right now. I'm not present in the here and now. I am living as if it's happening again. I'm back in that moment of experiencing that life-threatening event again. And so the dissociation does go both ways.